the button. Now it's hot.
Okay.
So that's that.
Yeah.
That's green.
Yeah.
Microphone's on.
Stayed me for a while.
So far, they're all good.
We'd like to welcome everybody here to this joint workshop with the Cache County Planning Commission and the Cache County Council. And we have one item on here that we would like to address together. And this is the Powder Mountain Proposed Master Plan. And anyway, this is by request of the Cache County Planning Commission that we get together and listen to this together. And I'm hoping that questions will come from both the council as well as the commission during this, that we can learn together and hopefully come up with the right decision for both. So at this point, I guess we will turn it over to, I guess, Dirk, are you the interim director? So turn it over to you for introduction and go from there.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Dirk Anderson, Interim Director of the Development Services Department. What is Powder Mountain? We really appreciate them coming up. They have submitted to the county a master plan for a resort zoned community or for that area. And that kind of zoning takes a special master plan. Our code requires it. And it is a plan that is very involved and would provide a significant change to the use down in the southern part of our county. What is the reason why Powder Mountain has come today was pretty much at my request. What the council tonight is doing is hopefully setting a public hearing for a rezone, and in 2 weeks, the second hearing on that rezone will occur. That rezone is simply a necessary precursor to even our code. Our county code requires that any necessary rezones that need to be part of a resort zoning have to occur before we consider that master plan. It just happens to be that they're here tonight. So I just want to clarify for the council's sake that they aren't necessarily here that will really affect what you're doing tonight. And certainly it may in 2 weeks, but the idea really is that this master plan is considered by staff, and Development Services staff will review it and then present our findings to the Planning Commission. And it's the Planning Commission that will then consider and vote on that master plan. And so we really appreciate Brooke and her staff coming today. They have a presentation that will tell you all about their master plan. And absolutely the idea is we want every council member to be informed, though they don't necessarily officially vote on that master plan in the process by code. Of course, the council would want to know and have opportunity to respond and ask all the questions they would like to. And so this will be a months-long process where we are considering and reviewing this master plan, and we want your input and want to answer any questions you may have throughout the process. So without further ado, we'd like Brooke and her staff to come on up.
Question though.
Yes.
Angie, wasn't there a planning commissioner that wanted to come by conference call?
Yeah, I was checking with Andrew and there were some technical difficulties, so I let Val J know that he could screen it on
So can't come on the phone? Okay.
Thank you, Nolan. That's a good thought. So Brooke, come on up and welcome.
Thank you, Dirk. It's good to be here again. We have a presentation, and it may be, my name is Brooke Hans. I am Chief Development.
No, you're not talking to yourself. You're fine.
Okay, we ready? That was quite the introduction. Chief, Development and Construction Officer for Powder Mountain. I also have Eric Anderson and Olga Marisana with us here from Powder Mountain tonight. We appreciate you putting us on the agenda, and for the planning commissioners that are here, some of what you see is repetitive because we did give, if you go to the second slide, on the right-hand side, you can see where we've been. And so we had, when I joined the team in April, we were able to work with staff, and then you saw us and were so kind to work through a development agreement with us in order to put 4 lifts in. And so thank you very much, because those are operational all now. And I'm proud to say that we, in fact, beat some of our competitors to market with those lifts operational this year. So that was kudos to you for letting us proceed with that. But as part of that process, working with staff and working with we discovered that the master plan CUP application needed to go forward. That process does go through a planning commission for final say, but we thought, and as Dirk mentioned, it would be great to share the entire process and application with you, although a piece of that is going to come to you in terms of the rezone. So on the right-hand side of the screen, you can kind of see the history of where we've been. In October, we were able, in my mind, lightning speed, we put together the master plan materials and got those submitted. And then in November 7th, we were able to do a work session and present that to the Planning Commission. If you don't mind going to the next. So we'd like to review that application and basically where we are today. So we can continue the process in front of the Planning Commission in February with a public hearing, as they're the determining body on that piece of the puzzle. So Dirk did mention rezone. So we thought we'd get this out of the way right at the beginning, so hopefully it all comes together and makes a ton of sense. What you're looking at in the vibrant colors, so the vibrant brown and the bright green, if you were to look at the outside boundary of that, is the entire 5,200 acres of the entire master plan. So we've applied for a plan that encompasses all of that area. However, the brown area, the existing RR zone, which was zoned quite some time ago, that's 3,580 acres, and it does not need a rezone. It's already active, it's already master plan, and it's already, it needs master plan CUP, but it already is active. The green area, so the 1,620 acres, thanks, that area is the portion that, in order for it to proceed as RR instead of FR40, would need to be rezoned. I did want to point out, though, that the activities in terms of the winter use actually are both allowed under RR and resort and FR40. So the difference is, when we did an analysis and discussed it with the Planning Commission, is actually the development component of vertical development, like residential uses, hotels, and things like that. That's the difference between what can actively happen essentially in the two zones.
Can I interrupt you and ask
Sure.
a question?
Yeah.
So that means that when it's the R40, you can still ski on it?
Correct, and
Allowable use in that, but to do the RR zone then is the only way you could develop buildings.
And we still could, but for example, a seasonal cabin isn't allowed use, all right, and that's not what we're looking to do. So one would look at, maybe the physical structure would be exactly the same, but we don't want to call it a seasonal cabin and have people to be able to, use it year round. And so that's the significant difference in land use. Would you mind going to the next slide? So this is the master plan image. So this is a map that, if you have an opportunity to download and look really closely, because there's a lot of information there. The blue highlighted area, which that dotted black line, you can see that runs around the perimeter of the project. That matches the previous map that you saw, the two colors. So the 5,200 acres are all represented in this master plan. And that was also a significant discussion we had with staff ahead of time before we submitted. We said, well, do you want us to submit just for the 3,500 plus acres? and wait, or do you want us to come in and do a rezone and a master plan for all the land at one time? And as you can see, because that light blue color, which extends over almost the entire landmass, is active winter recreation, it made more sense to come in and present it all at one time and have the discussion at one time so that the master plan is married actually to the entire landmass. So the blue area again is the winter recreation. Most of that is activated right now. Some of those lifts, you can look at the legend on, when you zoom in closely, that some of them are built, some of them are proposed. The brown areas are the areas, so the light tan and dark tan, and they're labeled A, B, C, D, E, F. Those are the areas where the vertical development component would occur within. So that's not, not every inch of that would be where the units went, but that's basically the ultimate maximum area where you would see both commercial and residential development. The non-winter activities like hiking and biking and our art installation, which we're really excited about, is also represented on this same map. So it's everything all at once. And so those are represented, the hiking and biking trails and the art installations are in the lighter green colors. I'm just looking to see if I missed any. Oh, design elements unifying the project, such as signs, materials, trash cans, benches, roadway elements, and all of those per the RR zone, they will all be described in a master landscape and signage plan, which is approved and managed by the master HOA of the resort. We can go to the next slide. So again, kind of just to be really specific about what we're proposing to have happen within that visual. Is it not following along for you guys?
We have the rezone documents, not this.
Not this,
They were just
okay.
asking about looking.
We can get this presentation to you. I apologize. It'd probably be easier if you could look at your screen and see what I'm showing. The CUP proposes a year-round recreational resort community with residential units, condominiums and hotels, corporate retreats, commercial areas, resort support and maintenance facilities, skiing, which is all encompassing. That also means snowboarding, that means snow biking, all of this ski-related uses, hiking and biking trails, equestrian uses, an art interactive park and trails, and other related improvements. So all of those things are represented on the visual map that you saw in the previous slide. And the reason why I wanted to make sure, you can go to the next one, that we went through that list is because those uses, which are described in the RR zone, are then also reflected in the density table. And so Cache County has, for the RR zone, a very specific density allocated to unit type. So as you can see here, we've got the 290 single-family residential uses, whether they're small or big, they all count as one. So whether it's a small home, that counts as one unit, or a large home. Then the hotel, commercial, or multifamily residential, that's broken down more into sizes. And so if you have a relatively small hotel room or an apartment at 500 square feet or smaller, you only count as a quarter of a unit. And so it's 0.25 UEs, but you can see at the bottom, we therefore propose 415 of those hotel, commercial, or multifamily residential units, which actually per UEs is 443.75. And then lastly, we, per the way that the definitions are written, are proposing 4 corporate retreats, a ski area facility of 40,000 square feet, recreation facility, another 30,000 square feet, and commercial space altogether of 150,000. And so each one of those also has a value, which is then translated on the right-hand side of the column. So in total, the density in UEs is 977.75. So if we go to the next slide, this actually, I think we did discuss this back when we came regarding the lift and the discussion for the development agreement. This is kind of nice to show how far down in the very south tip of the county the land mass is, the Powder Mountain project is. So that vibrant green, again, is the total area shown in the master plan, and it includes the RR zone and the area that's currently FR40 all in one. And the light yellow lines represent the major roads, which not even all of those, like Highway 39 isn't even open in the wintertime, but still there is no access year-round and paved coming from Cache County to any portion of the project area. And if you go to the next slide, we've zoomed in a little bit to try to make it more obvious, because even in Google Maps, you can't find us from Cache County. You have to come around on the Weber County side. And so the blue line in the blow-up indicates Highway 158, which is also known as Powder Mountain Road, which is the only access to the resort. If you don't mind, so the existing conditions map looks very similar to the master plan map, and that's because, as you just asked, a lot of the uses of the winter recreation are already active on the site, and much of that property actually, I believe this is our 52nd year, has been utilized over that time. Not necessarily always by a lift, but by snowmobiles, snowcats, and other means. And so that you can see that blue haze is our current active boundary of winter recreation. You can also see we do have some summer recreation trails, which are still highlighted in that same green color. And then, although we have very few improvements on the Cache County side, we have labeled those the maintenance building on the left-hand side of the picture near the bottom. Portions of some of our parking lots are located in Cache County. The Hidden Lake Lodge is in Cache County, but then things like the Sky Lodge and some of the remaining things at Timberline are actually, like our Timberline Lodge, located in Weber County. And the county line straddles right between buildings in some cases. If you don't mind, we'll go to the next. We don't have any good precedent imagery, I would say, or examples of architecture we wanted to replicate on the mountain right now. And so part of the requirements of the RR zone are to provide imagery and examples of the direction that the architecture is planned to go in. So we have provided that, and you can see that we're kind of going for a more modern alpine aesthetic with what the buildings will look like in the future. We can go to the next one. This slide, there are two slides here. When we presented to the Planning Commission, we had the fiscal impact analysis prepared by the third-party experts, and we highlighted some of the information in it, but we added another slide because it had some multiple questions actually about it. So the report, which was prepared per the standard of the code, it was prepared by LRB Public Finance Advisors, and it analyzed the fiscal impacts of the proposed project on Cache County, the school district, and other Cache County special service districts. The analysis looks at the impacts at certain periods of time. So initial impacts at 25% build out, 50%, and at 100% build out, which in this scenario, the absorption looks at about 25 years till we would be 100% done. In addition, you'll note at the bottom, there's a footnote that very generously on behalf of the county, it is in conservative, basically on the case of Powder Mountain, it assumes that 10% of the residential units would actually be primary residential, so full-time residential. We think that number is high, but I think from a let's make sure that we're conservative standpoint, it's a good number to utilize in this type of analysis. And if you go to the next.
That's a question.
Sir,
Was that all
yeah.
Cache County, or was that both counties combined?
This is just the fiscal impacts to Cache County.
Just Cache?
Yep, we separated it out because that's what the standard of the RR zone says, because I think basically because you probably want to know what it's going to do to your coffers and what those expenses, costs, and revenue looks like to you. So, yeah, thank you. So then that report is actually only about 18 pages long, so it's you won't fall asleep reading it, which is nice, because sometimes these things can dry your eyes. But obviously, it's a very positive outcome, which I was surprised that even from year one, because sometimes at the beginning periods of development, you have a gap. But even for year one for Cache County, although it isn't a very big number, it's only about $40,000 in year one. In terms of benefit to Cache County, you can see that after 25 years, annually, the project will produce an estimate of $5.4 million for the county and $7.69 million for the school district, and then for the other districts within the county, more than $600,000 for those taxing entities. And then this report also didn't take into account that in last year we paid over $110,000 in just for the building permit fees related to the lifts, which that is a different cost because those costs are related, in theory, to the cost of providing those services. But it is bringing in money, and all of the different types of way that revenue and costs are calculated have been analyzed in this report. You can go to the next slide. So left-hand side where we started with the submittal in October, right-hand side where we hope to be, assuming the stars align with approvals, entitlements, and design and the weather. So many things have to come in into alignment in order for us to begin construction. So we're kind of right there in the middle with the master plan CUP application, not only in front of you, but then hopefully in February with the Planning Commission and a public hearing. But we also have a rezone public hearing on the 28th with you, and then after that, subsequently, if things are approved, we still need to provide the zoning clearance agreements, the building permits, and any other documentation that the council or that the Planning Commission determines they'll need in order to process and approve things. And those things take time. So right now, we feel like we're sitting pretty well aligned with a June start. However, it does take a lot of work to get to June. And I think that might be the last slide on our, yep. I do have some information regarding the rezone if there are questions about that. I know that we're doing that presentation in a couple weeks, and we weren't planning on staying tonight because it wasn't officially planned to be discussed. But again, I love to preview things, so we're happy to talk about that if you have questions. So, with that being said, can I answer any questions?
Well, like I say, I'm hoping that we have kind of a combination, concerns, questions that you guys would have that would also come to us. Feel free and feel open. I've got a couple on your master plan. There's your master plan. Does it address fire, EMS, water, waste, and all those services? And where you mentioned that there's 1.38 billion of taxable value that's going to be jumping up to within the Cache County area.
Yes.
We have no roads to get there to service that with fire, EMS, and so forth. What's the master plan say that how that's going to be taken care of? Sure.
And so we intend to continue the services to be supplied by Weber County. And so it is our recommendation, although we can't demand this, we can request pleasantly that the current agreements or proposed agreements between the fire district and sheriff and EMS between the two counties, and the fire chief is here, he could speak to that. We've been in conversation. Those should be updated so that the services can continue to be provided by Weber County, and there's an interlocal opportunity or another agreement that could be entered into to make sure that the standard of care that we need in order to have the resort function is there, but also that the costs are allocated correctly.
Water, waste,
So
services?
there are currently over 150 connections receiving water and sewer, mostly on the Weber County side, but there was an agreement, I think it was 2012, Olga, that there were a few homes that were built across the county line that the Cache County agreed with Weber County that those could be built and planned under and received building permits from Weber County. However, the services all need to come from the lines that are already in the ground that are servicing the project. And so that's Powder Mountain Water and Sewer District. It is not an entity of the resort or the ownership itself. It's a separate SID. And it does cross the county line already. And so there is an annexation. We already receive water and sewer from that jurisdiction via the existing, and I didn't bring that map, boundary. However, that would have to be expanded a little bit in order to take in, for example, the area that's just been rezoned. And so, or is proposed to be rezoned, excuse me. So that's allowed. You can have water and sewer districts across county lines, and instead of creating a new one, that water and sewer district would prefer just to increase the boundary slightly to take on that role.
So along with that, you'd have lift station to lift sewage from the Cache County side, and then it would go over to Weaver and then go down to
It's never fun to have to take sewage uphill, but unfortunately, at the top of the mountain, we already do, even in the Weber County side alone, because, and it would be great to get both the county council and the planning commission out there. There's a lot of developable and really gentle terrain at the top of the mountain, which facilitates and allows for great, not just a great recreation experience, but combined with the residential development. However, it's downhill both on Weber and Cache, so it does have to get lifted up and then gravity feed down. So yes.
Other questions?
Yes. So you talked about the fiscal impacts, and I think the forecast of the taxable revenue to Cache County is probably going to have to be adjusted based on our interlocal agreement as far as having Weber County cover those. So I'd be interested in how that goes. But has there been a study as to other impacts? Natural impacts, wildlife impacts, or anything else like that that has given us an idea of what this is going to cause to that part of Cache County?
So as part of the RR zone, there are numerous reports and analysis that was required, including we did a cultural, we did some environmental vegetation. I believe we submitted a fire, urban wildland fire interface. So all of the reports related to the environmental questions that are asked in the code were completed and submitted as part of the master plan. And they indicate basically either best management practices or things that we need to do as we develop out in order to mitigate those impacts or avoid them altogether. And so, for example, for wildlife, there's a request about fencing and how it could and could not occur. And so we've placed the requirements to not have fencing into our CCNRs to take that issue away, so that anything that has been suggested as something that is either smart to do or that you should do, we're trying to put that into the documentation so that it's already taken care of by the time, if the master plan were to be over approved.
Another question for legal. So this has the potential of being a huge interlocal agreement between two counties based on what they're proposing as far as hotels and everything else. Are you guys comfortable in that being drafted for a long period of time, or how do we see that from an interlocal agreement as far as fire, safety, all of those things going, and how that goes from taxes? Does that make sense?
Yeah, it would be something obviously we want to work through and try to make sure everything's considered. Is it possible? I'd certainly say that it is, but we'd have to look at the specifics and get the parties at play, right? But we'd be certainly willing to enable to help facilitate that from the legal side.
So
I don't know if that answered your question or not, but.
Well, it just seems big in scope.
Yeah.
It would be big in scope, but is it possible? I would say it certainly is possible. even though the scope is big, I mean, we're looking, basically applying the same principles of whether it's this small one, whether we do something with the county, if the smaller entity, a smaller agreement, right, less the state, same principles that apply. We just have to make sure everything's being considered, which we'd be happy to do.
Well, to me, the scope seems big in finding that balance of how much tax revenue comes to Cache County and how much is going to go to them to cover the services and everything else.
And I think getting the parties that play there and having those conversations with, getting the experts really involved with, okay, what's it gonna cost, we're talking to Weber, talking with us, there'd be a lot of conversations that would have to happen, I think, as you point out. It would be big in scope, but is it possible, again, to circle back to that, I would say yes, it would be possible.
And there's a current interlocal agreement already, right?
There has been one in place. It needs to be updated. So actually, back in 2006 and 2007, the interlocals are actually very narrow because of the fire wants their own versus the sheriff versus the EMT. And we actually had drafts of those that were accepted by both parties back at that time that were negotiated between the parties that should be revisited based on this application, which is very few additional units because it's an additional 1,600 acres. But the scope of and nature of an interlocal specific to the services provided, I want to say it was less than an 8-page document. It was very, very much straightforward and applicable to the master plan and to the services provided. So.
And where I was going with that is I think it would be wise that this be like a 5-year renewal. You know, something that's this big, give us a shorter time frame on a contract to make adjustments in the event
We'll almost
find
build it
we
with
need
their,
to change it. And so have
almost
that
build it
in
with
the
their
contract or the
construction
agreement.
stages as to how density goes and everything else that way.
It makes sense
Yeah,
to
so a
phase it.
4-year, 5-year window on that interlocal rather than, what did you mention, like 20 years?
Yeah, 20.
I have a concern. You're wanting this all done by June, it looks like, right?
We have a goal of being able to put a new lift in and a maintenance facility and some ancillary facilities. They would have to stay on track, they would have to start in June.
Okay, with that said, and going back to Nolan's comment, this is a big deal for an interlocal agreement. I have a concern that just to get that time frame in, that we're really going to go all out on this interlocal agreement and not really have the proper time to make sure everything is good on it, as far as Cache County is concerned.
If I could address that, I share that concern. It's a complex document and pretty long. And I've met with Development Services staff about it as well as the proponent. And I have suggested that we hire a consultant to help us review the documents, ideally someone who has experience with these types of recreational documents. And the Development Services Department has already spoken with one engineering firm that might be able to help. And we discussed this morning doing a request for qualifications, RFQ, to other firms to find somebody who could help us and bring some expertise to review the document, review the master plan, and give us suggestions if there are things that we should be concerned about.
So the interlocal agreement between the two counties is not addressed in the master plan, or is it, as for future development happens, how's that set up?
It's not, because it isn't between the county council and the county council there, and it's not part of, so your code has not been updated since the state changed their laws that prohibit you from saying that we have to do a development agreement that includes interlocals. And so the state actually has, I don't know, that maybe 10 years ago, might be even longer, has come in and said, counties and cities, we appreciate your expertise and how you want to process these, but you can't ask for that. And so this is something that has to happen between the districts that are impacted. And we can't even demand it, although we think it's a good idea. But in your case, we're showing that you don't provide the services, you aren't providing the services, you're not planning on providing the services, and it's a huge windfall. So it's really a question of whether Weber County is going to come to you and say, we would like some of those funds to provide for the services that we are actually, providing currently to the county. And they have not said that yet. And so we have to separate. The master plan should be able to go forward, particularly because of the way that the state legislature has kind of limited the process. It can be a whole review, an entity, as Mr. Zook has mentioned, with, in front of you and in front of the Planning Commission. But the interlocals should be running right now with the parties, the fire, EMS, and sheriff, and they can be a separate thing that's managed by those entities and resolved. But again, there's no negative impact, even if you were to proceed with at this point, because you are not on the hook to pay Weber County anything at this point, any of the districts. And so they probably should be knocking on your door and asking that question, but there isn't a risk when it comes to the finances for Cache County.
I'm not ready to agree to that one yet, so.
I got another question. What are the current agriculture uses on all those properties?
So there are Greenbelt.
Are you going to try to keep as much of this into Greenbelt?
Much of it has been in Greenbelt for maybe all 50 years. And so, including the land that we just acquired.
The primary use is recreation, right?
Not in the summer. In the summer, there are areas that are primarily Greenbelt. And so we haven't looked at taking that out of Greenbelt. Areas where there would be development, 100% would be taken out of Greenbelt. Because the FAA doesn't apply any longer on those.
I do like your timeline, the way you talked about that you started this in last summer, and in a matter of 6 months to see where you're at already for rezone and the whole bit. I think that's really fast for such a big project that you have going. And I know of some people that just want to go build one house in this county, and they go for 1 and 2 years trying to get through it.
Yeah.
That's kind of worrisome to me, and I don't hope we're not have preferential treatment because there's money.
Well, no, it's just that we know how to do a lot of work really quickly. I've done this before, and so when I said to you, we're going to be back as soon as we can, and I stood here and said that with the materials, because that was what we were directed to do. We worked extensively. We hired all sorts of consultants in order we needed experts in environmental pieces like vegetation and wildlife. We needed to do a ton of survey. I know where those resources are. I've done it for other resorts, and we needed to be able to make sure that we had the absolute best information and put together a really amazing package that answered all your questions quickly. Because otherwise, coming back a year from now, that wasn't what we said we'd do. So, I feel really good actually about turning that around, because that was exhausting for us, frankly.
Other questions, comments?
I have a question. Oh.
Go ahead, Mr. Watterson.
Just a quick clarification.
Yes.
On the tax revenue, sales tax, I believe what I saw there was, it was a much smaller portion of that. Is that because the point of sale is in Weber County where the majority of the business that takes place there? Or did I misread that?
No, well, part of it is that, but also if you remember back to the density slide, we didn't actually have a lot of places that sales tax would be charged on the Cache County or the Weber County side, frankly. And so that was, in the analysis, they give some reasons why they think that's underestimated. But between the point of sale and current facilities, mostly being on the Weber County side, and that we don't frankly have, even in the master plan, a lot of future places to garner more sales tax. That's why they kept it relatively low.
Andrew, can you go back to the slide that showed the map with the blue, the whole 5,000 acres of
Right at the beginning.
area?
That's the existing conditions, or do you want to see the master plan? That's the master plan. They look very similar.
That's fine. I realize that part of that you're hoping to get rezoned, and that's included in that, correct?
Correct.
In the part that already exists, how many, I went to the assessor's office today just to get some education. There are a lot of parcels up there. Does the ski resort own those parcels? Are those still, a lot of them show different ownership. How does that work with the different parcels of land and how they're zoned?
If you wouldn't mind going, actually right there. So we weren't part of how this all came together over time, but yes, you can see mostly as you work your way towards the county line, which is at the bottom of the page, where the parcels tend to get smaller. But for whatever reason, over time, these parcels have been assembled, and the brown are the longer-term ownership kind of historic parcels that are already RR. And so even though it may say SMHG, or it may have a different name, like it might be spelled out Summit Mountain Holding Group, all of those are under now, both the green and the brown are ownership, except for there's, I think, 3 out parcels with the entire landmass, which we've called out in the master plan. And so in the master plan, you can click on each one of these tax parcels and see the history of it. You can also, and the acreage, and you can also see the 3, Weber State has a parcel. There is an L-shaped parcel that is kind of near the right-hand side. That's an out parcel, and then one that we're actually transacting on any day now. That will be gone. It will become part of the overall plan.
The resort owns all those, even though they're listed differently.
Even, yeah, it's hard to see on here, but they are all the same, and they all funnel up to the same entity.
That's what I wondered, like, was there private landowners who were leasing their property to you, or was it all already under that umbrella of your ownership?
So the green area, and one of the reasons why we didn't come in earlier with a rezone is because we closed on the green area in September and then filed in October for the master plan. And so that was a different ownership under a lease, you're correct, but now it is ours.
Okay.
And it should show up as our ownership. That was taken care of, like I said, in September, so.
Okay, thank you. That, I was questioning how that all was put together.
No, that's helpful.
Okay.
Can you just toggle between this map and the next one a little bit, just to show sort of, I think it's relevant, at least it was to me during the planning commission. So go back, and if you just kind of picture in your mind where the green is, so the new rezone area.
I have a good map, I think, that
And the next
addresses
map
it.
shows, there's not a lot of, quote, new development in the green area right now. It's mostly skiable, so it's not a lot of residential or home.
It's actually 90 acres of the 1,600, and keep going. Keep going, 2 more. Oh, okay, 1 more. Thank you. I'm so glad you asked the question. So you're going to see this again, spoiler alert, in a couple of weeks. But the green area, vibrant green again, is the area we're asking for a rezone on. The red area within the green is the total amount of area that we're looking for residential/commercial development to occur within at the most. And so the rest of that is reserved for recreational uses.
So to do those developments, they would come before the Cache County Planning Commission, correct? Because they are in Cache County.
So
How would that work as you do those developments? How does that work?
our plan was that we would maintain the process as it is now. And so if we were to get a master plan CUP, then the plats would come to Cache County and the building permits would come to Cache County, and only the water and sewer, which is provided by Powder Mountain Water and Sewer, and the fire, EMT, and police would be provided by Weber County. Everything else is, now that would be a different conversation. If Cache County decides you do not want to be in the business of doing that anymore, that's then an interlocal that has to happen with the county, and then you're a part of answering those questions. And
So by approving that master plan, these kind of developments are already included in that master plan. They don't come separately.
they don't come as like a site plan or anything else. They come only as a plat and a building permit. A ZC, I think, and your staff would have to answer, I think they have to go through a ZCA as well.
That was my question.
I have a question more incidental to this. Obviously, the Cottonwood Canyons are seeing a lot of traffic issues, and they're talking about the tram and all sorts of other things. That road, I mean, we've all driven up, it's not a big thoroughfare. What does the master plan account for as far as transportation, or is there talk with Weber County about public transportation options to get up to the mountain? Or
Yeah, I'm glad you asked that. We actually currently have UTA providing service all the way to all 3 of the lodges at the top of the resort, and we've established a far more robust transit system ourselves this year that picks up in the valley at various parking places, including neighborhoods, and takes people to the top, because one of the things that we're currently constrained on that we're not thinking of significantly growing is places for people to park, because we want people to be in transit and enjoying their ride up instead of being nervous about their time on the road. And so we have looked at with UDOT, and part of what we've submitted is a TIS, a traffic impact study, that we are going back and forth with UDOT on regarding their assumptions versus the traffic engineer's assumptions. However, it does show at certain points in the future things like traffic lights in the valley. So the 4-way stop, for example, in Eden, changing to whether that's a light or a roundabout. There would be things, but since those are state highways, those are the responsibilities of UDOT, but they have highlighted when those, they think at which benchmark in terms of density, they think those would happen, and any other improvements on that road. If you drove this past year, UDOT finally has put in, or started to put in, a runaway truck ramp near the very bottom. That will be completed next summer. And so that was an improvement that UDOT had on the radar for the past 20 years that is going to be a nice addition to the road.
Mr. Chair,
Yes, please.
can I ask for some latitude to bring up Mr. Anderson, Dirk, and Rodhammer and ask them questions about
Yeah.
building inspection and fire and how that works? So part of my question comes down that if we're building in there, and a lot of the building is going in Cache County, we're sending our building inspector down there, I don't know how many times, and yet Weber is going to supply the fire safety of that. So help me understand that and how we cover that from a county. And Rod, if you've done anything as far as, you probably know about this interlocal agreement about fire and everything, if you can enlighten us more, does that make sense?
Sure. So just as far as building inspection or annual business inspection is what we do with fire. So we send somebody to go inspect the buildings that are on the Cache County side, the commercial buildings that are asking for a building permit. We do that annually. Takes a day or so, not a huge amount of time. There was an agreement prior to, I don't know, it's probably 20 years old, between Cache County and Weber for fire protection up in that area. We met with the developer and Weber County, or Weber Fire District, a few months ago to talk about how things are being developed up there. And there are several options. The developers agreed to put in a fire station. They haven't decided yet where it's going to be exactly, whether it's Cache or Weber. If it's Cache, it means one thing. And it does make more sense for Weber County to cover that from a fire protection standpoint. We have no access. There's several ways to do that. One is to let them annex that area into the Weber County Fire District, which will have implications on Cache County Fire District. The other is to pay them by contract, and they've talked about asking payment equivalent to what they put on a normal home or business in that, in the Weber Fire District. So if it's $250 for a $500,000 house, then they'd want that equivalent to be paid by Cache County into the Weaver Fire District to take care of that service. Those talks are still ongoing. We haven't finalized how that's going to work out, but
So to me, that impacts that future projection of tax revenue that's coming to Cache County
yes,
pretty deeply, possibly.
yeah, and I'm not sure what the numbers are yet on that.
Right. Dirk, from a standpoint of development services, you're sending building inspectors down there. How does that impact you and everything else?
Great question, pretty short answer, I have no idea. We'd have to talk to Brian, see how they would do that. With the number of units, we'd want them to consider that as well.
Right.
And something that's come to me and is occurring to me today is the difference between the master plan, but then all these services and who's covering, who's going to be taxed. Our property taxes would be the same based on the fact that they are in our taxing area, but then whichever district covers them for fire and such, that's where they would be taxed for that service. So it's going to be additional taxes. So it doesn't necessarily mean that there will certainly be some adjustment of these numbers, but that doesn't mean necessarily that it's one for one, if we think about it that way. But these are all issues that have to be, right? Every single service, fire.
Right. And the other thing I'm
policing.
thinking about is based on the density, are we talking about how much slope or steepness of roads and everything else the county is ready to talk to them about where these buildings are at and everything else from that standpoint?
Angie Zetterquist, it's your time to shine. Do you have a comment that you could help with that?
Yeah, that's part of the review process for the master plan, is to make sure that where they're proposing development is not located in non-developable areas. So again, that's just another level of review that needs to be done before the master plan can move forward. That's the basis for the next, as you mentioned, 20, 25 years, right? If we approve this, and off of that, there is actually a development plan application process that's part of the RR zone that's not the development agreement part, that does talk about needing to come back with more specific plans to the planning commission for each component of the development. But yeah, again, that's why we're considering the consultants also, because, we need help reviewing, they got all the consultants on board really fast, all the experts, but, now we need to review that to make sure that it's meeting all those requirements and is based on solid research and study. But yeah, sorry, what was the question? No, but, again, it's a massive document. It just makes sense to get it right, get that foundation built right at the beginning, so that we don't have to fight every time or different interpretations.
Well, back to what Barbara said, and this timetable of June and getting a contractor on the county side to help us on that seems to take some time, and I don't know, I'm just worried about that side of protecting the county and the time frame of what's on here. I need some more time to think that out, see how that goes. I don't know how the rest of you feel, but
I agree with you.
I would hope they could get on that pretty quickly and get somebody under contract to oversee that. I don't know that they can do it that quickly, but what is the time frame for the planning commission to accept this master plan? Is there something on the schedule, or is there a goal for that?
Maybe an initial comment to that is that it won't really be able to go to the planning commission until our staff, with help of the consultant, is able to fully analyze it. It's an interesting balance. We need to, the governor came out last week and encouraging basically governments to streamline their processes, but then this is a really big development. So you want to balance expediency for everyone, but you don't want to give up quality of analysis or review. And there are a lot of interesting issues that already have come up. Just the fact that our code is out of date and speaks to things that aren't applicable anymore. And so I'm left wondering, in a way, this is just, I guess, a side comment. How is our code updated right now? and so we can look at that, and we'll certainly learn from this process, and we'll be able to come up with code that best approaches these issues as we go. But we're absolutely committed to getting the right analysis done, getting it complete, so much so that we're making sure that when we even choose the consultant, quickly choose the consultant, but that we do it that there are no even perceived conflicts of interest. We're doing our best with that. We want to make sure that the analyst, the consultant we get, is truly a third-party consultant, which can be hard to do when we only have so many, quote-unquote, in the area, and Powder Mountain is utilizing some of those, right? So we want to make sure that they're completely separate. So we've got to line up the consultant. We've got to have a constant, my view, even when I'm not interim director, I'll have responsibility for development services. My effort and my intent and my attitude is that we communicate early and often with everyone, the Planning Commission, the council, between development services and with Powder Mountain included, everyone kind of moving forward as quickly as we can, but we're not moving quickly in a way that sacrifices quality of getting all of the decision makers the information they need to make the right decision. So that's our commitment.
Is it quite common to have the master plans and the CUP married like that?
That's a good question. I know that our code does speak to that the process should include rezones such as those that are coming before the council right now, taken care of before the master plan is, submitted or considered. We haven't minded kind of informally receiving it and getting educated, but it is a necessary first step for those rezones to be considered by the council and approved in order for those areas to be included in the master plan. As far as the CUP process going forward at the same time, I think what's unique about this master plan process is that it becomes the law is a little strong word, but it becomes the standard by which everyone moves forward. As they develop this area, the idea of having a master plan, resort master plan, is that as they develop, if it's something outside of this plan, they have to come back and they have to get things, amendments actually to the master plan. But if it's not, and we've approved it, then they go forward with those plans. So we need to ask the right questions now so that we can avoid surprises later. Now, your question was, when is the hearing going to be to approve the master plan? Kind of joking, that was kind of your question. The answer is we don't know, but we want to do it as soon as we can, but we don't want to rush the review process. And
Won't happen until you are satisfied that you've had a consultant to look at the master plan,
yes,
development services.
yes. But when it comes to internal processes, I've absolutely committed to Brooke and honestly everybody that there's no reason why anyone in our office should be sitting on anything on any given day. If this is a big enough project, there are going to be enough issues surrounding it that we will, even with a consultant, we're going to be working day in, day out on this, even with consultant help. Because you have to guide those consultants, you have to make sure they're asking the right questions, you have to set up the scope. Yeah.
It sounds like you're putting this as a priority and that everybody's going to be working on it. What's going to happen to all the other county business, such as the homeowners that want to come in? Is that going to be put on the back burner because
No.
you're so concerned about this?
No, indeed. Thank you, Barbara. Great question. Indeed, that's one reason why we want to hire a consultant, because it would take a great deal of commitment from the staff to actually consider this seriously on our own. So no, we don't expect any slowdown in those response and process times.
Okay, other questions? Yes, please.
I just had one question. We talked about the emergency services and such, but I would think that we would be in close coordination with Weber County as well on the master plan. Otherwise, it's gonna look like you're going from Lewiston into Preston, or, aren't we gonna wanna be uniform in the project as a whole? Does that make sense?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Maybe related to that, Brooke, you can give a summary of, the concurrent or similarly permitted status for the Weaver County.
Okay, so I'll try to answer both those, make sure I hit them accurately. We received yesterday, and it is part of the downloadable file, a letter from the Weber County Council, or actually their commission, because they're a 3-member commission, I apologize, in support of this master plan that references the support and the review of the materials, because we did provide it to them soon after we had provided it here. I don't think it was October, it was probably more like November. However, then the next question was, sorry, what was the second part?
Just sort of what the status.
Oh, the status, yeah, sorry. So Weber County has a similar resort-specific zone that we went through the process with them in the early 2000s to do all of the steps. And then at that time, the state legislature still allowed development agreements. And so we entered into a development agreement specific to the maximum number of units and different benchmarks and things that we had to do. And we, every time we apply for a subdivision, a plat, if it doesn't match the exact parameters of the big map, we come in and we show how it differs. They decide whether that's acceptable or not. If it actually matches exactly, then it just goes to plat and then goes to building permit. And so there's multiple options essentially for us. But if and so far, we've had both happen. Most of the plats that we've received in the development that exists there matches the plan exactly, and so it's been processed. But we live within the regulations of that agreement for the development of the entire master plan.
Other comments, questions? We're wrapping up to about our hour that we had booked for it, but I think it's been quite informative. Hopefully that's helped some of this, and I'm sure as we go through even more of it, I would urge the planning commission to please reach out, and if we need to meet together again or something, we'll be happy to accommodate that. So.
The only other thing that Mr. Chairman, that I just ask is, the information we've had, I'm not trying not to be critical, it's been good, but I just feel this is so large, and I feel like Barbara, I feel like it's been rushed. I mean, if we have some experience in here that deals with this and is telling us this is what needs to be done, gives us some assurance, but it'd sure be nice to have that assurance, have that somebody that's comfortable and familiar with a project of this scope, especially all coming at once, to be there to be kind of a light for us or something to help us.
I think several people spoke about that too. I agree with it. I think that's a good comment there. Others?
Brooke, I was just curious what other resorts you've worked on. You mentioned some of the ones in the past.
Sure. So the past 10 years I've spent, maybe you've seen in the news, the expanded Deer Valley. So basically it's nearly 3 times. So I put the land together and the entitlements and all of the work and the cleanup and the vertical construction. We just opened the Grand Hyatt officially last week on that project. So that went from well, to be fair, it had gotten approved in the 70s in Wasatch County, but we had to start fresh again, and there had been nothing done except for let the mines run the water down the mountain since the 70s. So 150 years basically of no other uses but historic mining. Prior to that, I've worked on resorts in other countries, and then if you're familiar with Tamarack Resort, that was the first project I ever worked on back in the late 90s.
Is that in Idaho?
Like
that's
McCall,
Idaho.
right?
Yeah, south of McCall.
Yeah.
Donnelly, north of Cascade.
Okay. Anything else? Well, thank you very much for taking that time to come up here. And thanks Planning Commission, for all that you guys are doing.
Yes.
We really appreciate it, and this will be a big task, but you guys are smart people. You really are. So, appreciate it. Okay, then we'll be convening with County Council at 5 o'clock. So, rest of you have a good day and drive careful if you're traveling. Gavel on that one.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, are we free to leave even if the gavel hasn't been banged?
Unless Nolan wants me to hit the gavel, but he really doesn't like that. lean on, so we'd like to welcome everybody out to County Council today, January 14th, 2025. I'm Council Chair Dave Erickson, and we'll turn the opening over to Council Member Mark Hurd.
Great. Thank you, Mr. Chair. For the opening, I just intend to offer a prayer, and then we'll proceed to the Pledge of Allegiance. Our Father in heaven, we are grateful to be able to gather here today for the purpose of conducting the County Council meeting for Cache County. We're grateful for the blessing and opportunity it is for us to be engaged in our local government and to be able to serve as citizens, to influence and inform the directions and activities of the county. We pray for thy Spirit to abide with us here in this meeting as well as through the operations of the county, that the work will be satisfactory unto thee and meet the needs of those we serve. We pray for peace, strength, health, comfort, and warmth to be with those this time of year, those in our county this time of year. And we're thankful for the means that thou hast blessed us with. And we say this in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen.
Will you please rise and follow me in the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Well, thank you very much. Appreciate that. I will now entertain a motion on the approval of the revised agenda.
So moved?
Second.
Moved and seconded that we approve the revised agenda. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? It's unanimous. How about the minutes from December 3rd, the 10th, and the 17th, and the January 7th?
I read through those, and in some areas, your last name is spelled incorrectly.
Ian.
In other, no, it leaves out the C.
Oh,
Yeah, and
Okay.
in other areas, it is spelled correctly, so I don't know if we're gonna be that picky to make that change. Okay, awesome, thank you. Otherwise, I would say, make a motion to approve the minutes.
Search and replace.
is there a second?
I'll second.
Moved and seconded that we approve December 3rd, December 10th, December 17th, and January 7th, 2025's minutes with the slight changes. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes unanimous. Report of the county executive.
All right, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just have one item this evening, well, maybe one and a partial. I had a meeting last week with the police chief, Logan City. There was also a representative from the dispatch center and the Logan Fire Department. As you know, Logan City operates our public safety dispatch center for our county. And they have some concerns about funding for those operations. They have not asked for a rate increase for those operations in 23 years. They are considering asking each of the jurisdictions, all of the cities and the county, to increase each of their fees by $1. And they would like to come and do a presentation and answer questions. And I believe they would like you to adopt that for implementation in July. So it sounds like we have a little bit of time. But I gave a document from the chief to Andrew that he can distribute to all of you. And he said he'd be willing to coordinate that if you'd like to have that presentation from the public safety officials there at the dispatch center. He did say that they have had some significant challenges with staffing, and they feel like if they are able to raise a little bit more money from this increased fee, that they could increase pay, which they think would help with their staffing issues. But he could give a full presentation and talk to you about all of that when he comes, if you'd like to have him come and give a presentation. The only other thing, just briefly, is I know you're going to talk about assignments later on the agenda, and I would just say if there are any of the positions that I do the appointments for that you're interested in serving in, let me know later in the discussion today or anytime between now and next meeting, and I was planning to bring those appointments back next time as well. So let me know about those either later today or sometime between now and next meeting. And that concludes my report for this evening. Thank you.
Thank you. Items of special interest. At that point, 6A, the election of a county chair and vice chair as per Cache County Code 212 and 50.
I'd like to make a motion, please. I would like to elect. Nominate,
Yeah.
thank you, that's the word I couldn't think of it. Nominate Sandy Goodlander as council chair and Nolan Gunnell as vice chair.
Is there a second to that nomination? First of all, we'll ask if you'd be willing.
Yes, I would.
Nolan?
I didn't see a contract with a raise or anything, so I'm still debating it.
Is there a second to that motion?
Could I make a friendly amendment to that motion?
Yeah.
I would like to.
Well, not until we get a second, though, I
Okay.
guess.
Okay.
Is there a second?
Oh.
There's no second to that motion.
Okay.
Motion dies for lack of second. Okay, is there any other?
Mr. Chair, I'd make the motion that we nominate Sandy Goodlander as the chair and Catherine Buse as vice chair.
I'll second that.
Moved and seconded that we elect Sandy Goodlander as chair and Catherine Buse as vice chair. Is there any discussion on that?
Is that okay?
Catherine, would you?
Is that okay with Catherine? Okay. Well, should we vote? Let's vote. Let's just actually, let's vote on this. Let's vote on the chair first. Is that okay? All those in favor, say aye. Sandy
the chair?
Goodlander for the
Okay.
chair.
Aye.
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 Any opposed? That is unanimous. How about for Catherine Buse as vice chair? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Nay.
I'll say nay. So it's 4-3, so,
Robert's rules is it's one motion, it's one vote.
okay. Well, either way, it still passes. Okay? So, with that, then I'll turn the gavel over to Sandy Goodlander. You have the rest of the meeting, and I'm timing you.
Okay. I'm hoping you're nudging me, telling me what to do.
We'll just change seats. If you'll change
Do I have
seats.
to move?
Yes, well, yeah, let's do that. I kind of want to see what a different seat feels like anyway. So, but we'll change water bottles too.
That part I'm good with.
If you don't mind, I'll give you your purse too.
All right, well, thank you for that vote. I hope that I can follow through and act as a good chair. And I'm grateful for everyone in the county that comes to these meetings and supports us. And I hope that there will be a lot of communication, and especially from my fellow council members, if there's I expect a lot of nudges to tell me that I'm doing things correctly. So thank you. Okay, the next thing on our agenda is 6B, the Bear River Association of Governments Draft Interlocal Agreement. Can I turn that over to you, Jairus?
Madam Chair,
Yes?
before we proceed to that, Andrew was kind enough to help me word this motion, but I would propose a motion that we update the council documents. The motion would be, I move to update all documents where appropriate in this and subsequent council meetings, that they be updated to account for the change in year, the separation of the clerk auditor into two independent positions, newly sworn in council members, and the newly elected leadership of the council.
Okay, there's been a motion. Do I have a second on that?
Second.
Any discussion about that? Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, the motion passes. And I failed to welcome Keegan too, as his very first council meeting.
Thank you.
Glad to have you here and hope you can hang on for the ride.
Me too. Got some food, so I think I might last.
We'll figure it out. Okay, with that, I'll go ahead and turn the time over to Jairus.
Thank you, Council. I'll try and make this brief. The Bear River Association of Governments was established by Cache, Rich, and Box Elder counties back in the early 70s. The last revision to the interlocal agreement for Bragg was in 1973. State law requires a new agreement after 50 years, and therefore the agreement presented to the County Council mirrors much of what was in the previous agreement, but has some changes have been made primarily to come into compliance with state law, to ensure that references to state law are up to date. Some of the other changes that were made were clarifying the definition of regional problems, clarifying the powers and duties of Bragg in relation to state law, renaming the executive committee as the governing board, clarifying the duties and responsibilities of the governing board, establishing a process for Bragg to request match funds and assessed funds from the counties, and then adding a provision for Bragg to review the interlocal regularly and often. So these are some of the major changes that occur. There are others as well. But with that, we are just presenting this to Cache County, as Cache County is one of those 3 counties that has authority to create and continue the existence of the Bear River Association of Governments. Are there any questions or anything that you need from me beyond that?
I just want to thank Jairus, because I know you've been working on this for months, and it was very basic to begin with. There was a lot to flesh out, and I understand it's already been approved by the Box Elder County Commission.
Yes, Box Elder and Rich. I was informed by our director of Bragg, so we are the last county.
Okay. Anybody have any questions for Jairus or anybody? And also, I see Lucas Martin is here, our executive director of Bragg, and just want to give a shout out to you and thanks for all the services that Bragg offers to our Tri-County area. They do some really, really good things for the people that live here, especially those that are sometimes on the lower income level. Okay, so do I have a motion then to approve the interlocal agreement?
Madam Chair, I move to approve the Bear River Association of Government interlocal agreement as presented.
Can I get a second?
I'll second that.
It's been moved and seconded. Any discussion?
I just have a new guy question.
Okay.
I just got it last night. I didn't have time to read it. Can I abstain from a vote? 'Cause-
Absolutely.
Okay. I might do that for a couple of these because I have a full-time job and I didn't get a chance to read over everything. And I'd feel better if I did get the chance to do that before voting on it.
That's perfect. Thanks, Keegan. Okay, it's been moved and seconded. All those in favor of accepting this interlocal agreement, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye for me. Anybody voting in the negative? Okay. All right, move on to number C. Julie, do you want to take that for us?
State,
Oh,
state the vote. It's unanimous.
the vote was
One
unanimous with one abstaining.
Yeah, that's for the clerks. We'll give you the eagle eye if you don't.
Thank you.
Hi, everyone. For those of you who may not know me, my name is Julie Hollis-Terrell, and I'm the director of the Visitors Bureau. Wendy Hassan, who is the director of Cache Arts, asked me if I would present for her tonight. She's on her way back from New York City at a presenters conference shopping for great entertainment that we'll have a chance to see in the future year. As you have received an application for some interim RAPS funds from Music Theater West, I'd just like to give you a little perspective on that. As you know, or I hope you know by now, after 30 years, Utah Festival Opera is taking a hiatus this summer from performances. For tourism, we're kind of just having a disastrous perfect storm of events that I'm concerned about. First of all, as you know, we've lost the small satellite conference. Second of all, now Utah Festival is not performing in the Eccles. And third, the Lyric Theater is going to be under major renovations, and so they are not going to be performing downtown this summer. All of their performances will be on campus. This makes me nervous for our hoteliers and also for our restaurants, especially because I would dare say that a majority of the people who go to see a show eat either before or after the event. And so we have those concerns. As soon as Wendy found out about this, I was so happy because she just did what Wendy does well and started contacting all her connections to see if there were some things that we could have programmed in the Ellen Eccles Theater because, you know, people literally for 30 years have been trained to come to Logan for performing arts. And so to have the Ellen Eccles Theater dark for the summer gives us a good chance of alienating those people and getting them out of the habit of coming to Logan, which is a dangerous thing for us. We want them to continue coming here. I was grateful that Music Theater West stepped up and said that they normally program 2 shows a year, but they said that they would be willing to do a show during the summer to help with keep things rolling at the Ellen Eccles Theater. And I just want to thank Celeste Ballio for being here. She's the executive director of Music Theater West, in case you have any questions for her. So the reason that they're applying for funding now, and I did distribute to you a copy of their budget that they used that they included in their application, in order to have the quality of production that they would like to have. They are asking for RAPS for additional funding of $40,000 to go toward their production so that they can afford to hire a full orchestra and all the other pieces of the puzzle that they need. They have to procure rights, and they have to do that right now. They have to be getting the orchestra right now. They have to be getting the director right now. And that's how come they can't wait to apply in March and find out in May when they're going to be performing a month later. So Wendy sent a letter to all of you, which I hope you've had a chance to review. The other theater organization that has stepped up to do a performance in the Ellen Eccles Theater is Cash Theater Company. They are going to produce The Prince of Egypt. I don't think that they were aware or had even thought about the possibility of coming to the RAPS to see if there was any help that they could be given for the same reason. But if you were able to read the letter from Wendy, she encouraged the county council to be open to any request for a group that would perform in the Ellen Eccles Theater this summer. She also mentioned that she immediately has gone to work with a private donor and to raise more funds that would only be used for this specific bridge time when this was unexpected, and mentioned that that donor will also be watching to see what your response is and if you have support for these productions. And I certainly hope that you do. If you've had the opportunity to participate and attend Music Theater West performances, Cash Theater, Four Seasons, I used to work as the director of marketing at the Ellen Eccles Theater, and when you bring in a Broadway touring show, they come on different tiers. So tier 1 is the ones that you would see in Salt Lake City, the big full-on ones, and then it just goes lower and lower. And it was interesting because the director, Lizette Miles, at that time said, I've never been in a community where the local performing groups have performances that are higher quality than the lower tiers of the touring productions. And so, and they also, I appreciate that they use local artists and local performers to help support them, one of whom is here tonight in support as well. And so I'm hopeful that you will be able to find a way to support them, and also Cash Theater Company if they come to you, so that we can still market to our destination tourists, come and see great arts in Cache Valley, even though the opera isn't here this year. So that's what I have for you. Do you have any questions for me or for Celeste? Please.
For either of you, how many shows will you be putting on?
So we'll be doing one show, Scarlet Pimpernel, in the month of June, and then Cash Theater will be doing Prince of Egypt in the month of July.
And how many performances? I'm like
7 to 8 performances.
Okay.
They are booked for June 20th through the 28th. So this is great timing because summer citizens will be here. And also, I think that the locals also will appreciate the opportunity to support them in the Ellen Eccles Theater during the summer. So I think we'll get that support as well. And then also give us something to market, as I mentioned, to those people who have previously been destination tourists to still come here, stay overnight, eat in our restaurants, that kind of thing. David.
My understanding is that the opera is the #1 client of the Eccles Theater, meaning they use it more than anyone else, and that's the largest portion of revenue that the theater receives.
Absolutely.
So if that's the case and they won't be there, do you know how many weeks it normally is that they would have rented the theater?
Wendy has told me it's about 3 months because they rent it for their rehearsal time as well.
Okay. And I understand that Wendy's been trying to fill those 3
Oh,
months.
I forgot to mention that as well. She is still shopping for some touring productions we can get. You know, it's interesting because during the year, like she's on the route in the mind of people who produce shows for all of the year except for summer. So for her to have to go and do that, people are like, wait, what? You want to show in summer? So it's kind of an issue with shows that are coming through, being able to grab them when they're not used to coming to Logan because it's never been available before.
So do you know how many of those 12 or 13 weeks have been filled so far?
You know, I don't know that off the top of my head. I'm sorry.
So this production would help fill some of that.
You'd have at least a couple of weeks, right?
We'll be there 2 weeks, Cash Theater will be there 2 weeks. I know she's also talking to Pickleville being there for 1 week as well.
Her email she wrote says, "We're happy to report that we have filled 6 of the 11 weeks with local rentals."
Oh, thank you. I should have known that. Thank you.
There's just up on my screen.
Yeah,
so.
thanks. Thank you. And then the other question I had, Julie, could you talk also about how this might affect summer citizens?
Yeah, so the Summer Citizens and Utah Festival kind of go hand in hand. Utah Festival has truly been an anchor for the reason that they come. I mean, they were already coming before that, but once Utah Festival showed up, it was interesting because on Friday, I got a letter in the mail from Arizona, from a Summer Citizens couple. When I opened it, it was the funeral program for the man. And inside, they had put, in the program, they had put his obituary. And it was very interesting to me because it talked about how much they love the arts. And it said, they spent 11 years in Logan at Utah Festival Opera and Musical Theater. Didn't say one thing about Summer Citizens. And they enjoyed all those performances. And then the wife, Judy, had written at the bottom, our hearts were always in Logan, because they couldn't come the last couple of years. But like that tells you, that's just one example of people who like really the anchor reason why they come is because they love Utah Festival. And it's not just the performances, but you know, they do all the workshops and classes and all the other events that go along with it that make it a big difference.
Well, I'd like to say thank you for stepping up, because I think the local, I've said for a number of years that we have good local talent and we should be giving them a chance to perform. So I'm grateful that we are having that local talent step up. So thank you.
Julie, I want to make sure I understand, both theater groups are asking for $40,000.
You know, I don't have any documentation or anything from Cash Theater yet.
We got a letter from them.
Okay, so I haven't seen that, so I don't know.
Okay.
So Cash Theater has the Prince of Egypt,
Yeah.
correct? Okay, so I'm trying.
These guys have Scarlet Pimpernel.
Scarlet Pimpernel.
And they want 40,000 as well. Okay, so it would be $80,000.
So did they must have obviously provided you with a budget as well, so you could see
They
that
did.
it was,
Yeah.
you know, balanced with what you feel.
Yeah?
Yep. Okay. Any other questions? from-
Yeah, I know Alma's provided basically a remaining amount that is in the restaurant wraps. The wraps or the recreation section's basically gone, but the restaurant section, which this would all fall under, is quite healthy.
Just like
And so,
400,000-ish, right?
And with that, I hope you'd be in favor of a motion, but I
Yes.
would move that we go ahead and support these two organizations with that additional $40,000 each
I'll second it.
to make up for these, I guess, I won't say mishaps, but these changes that we got.
Yeah. Okay, I have motion and it's been seconded. Any other discussion?
I had a question about allocation, and I was looking at last year. I don't have it in front of me, but I think Festival Opera got 500,000 and then another 50 to promote. Is this the time where we consider pulling that back since they're not putting as much, or is that a completely
They
different?
spent it that season, so it was awarded in May and they spent it last summer.
Look at that again this year, and maybe at that time we consider that we allocated more here and take that into consideration when we make that decision?
Yeah.
Okay.
There may not be application for that tax
Oh,
credit.
Yeah, we consider those coming up in
Yeah.
like 3 months.
Okay,
Yeah.
great, thanks.
Okay, any more discussion? Okay, those in favor of accepting the motion that we approve the funding for both of these theater groups for out of the RAPS tax, please say aye.
Aye.
Okay, thank you, that was unanimous.
That's great, and I want to let you know as well that I will be using some of our funds through a marketing budget in the Visitors Bureau to help promote this to our out-of-area and destination tourists, just so that you know that I'll be involved all throughout. Thank you, and David, I want to say thank you to you too for your service as the chair, and congratulations, Sandy. You.
Quick question. So we have the 2 theater companies, and there is another theater company that we will potentially be receiving an application?
They have announced the productions that they are already doing, and they always perform in Skyview High School's auditorium. So I haven't heard any word, and Wendy hasn't said anything about them moving locations to be in the Eccles, but they will still be performing, so I'm doubtful that you're going to hear from them.
Okay.
Okay.
Thanks, you guys.
I want to also clarify, because David made sure that I understand this. We have approved it and it will come, but we can't write checks until the budget opening in March. So that's, just so that you're aware that that's when it'll come.
It's in the mail.
Yeah, it won't be tonight.
Thank you.
Okay. Alma, yes?
Excuse me. Can we make a clarification? It needs to come from restaurant. There's wraps and restaurant. So make that clarification, and then we want to make sure we understand. Is it 40,000 to each, Music Theater West and Cash Theater?
Correct.
So I don't, yeah.
40,000 for each
40
one.
And it'll come from
Yes.
the restaurant portion.
From the restaurant, okay. Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Alma. Okay, we're down to, it's 5:30, so we can set public hearings. Number 7, if I can get a motion on those. Right, it's just a motion, right?
Yep, do all 3.
Okay.
I'll make the motion that we set the public hearings for ordinances 2025-1, -2, and 3, being Staker Parson North, Smithfield Plant rezone, Rick Champlin rezone, and the Powder Mountain rezone, 2024 rezone.
I'll second it.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, that was unanimous as well. Thank you. Okay, pending action, ordinance 2024-23, the CVB rezone is,
If I can.
okay. Andrew's going to tell us about that.
So I was actually going through a bunch of documents that we passed as a county, and I essentially came over what I thought we had passed as these rezones. I talked to Jairus's office. Jairus and Andrew Crane provided a lot of guidance on this. So essentially, this is now back on the docket. Now this is in the actual formal written form for you guys to actually vote on it. So this is something that's already been talked about. This is just the text of those as they should be to be approved. So anyway, if you guys have any questions.
Except Marshall Mon is the top one and CVB is the second one. They're mislabeled.
They might be.
So you're saying Marshall should be 23 and CVB should be 24?
It should be, because the
Okay.
14 acres is what the planning and zoning did, and that is between Wellsville and Mendon, rather than the 1.4 acres near Hyde Park, which is going to industrial, so.
Oh, so those are labeled incorrect.
So the
Right.
wording needs to be all changed around too.
Well, the description is right.
Okay.
It's just
The label.
2024 should be on top, and 2024-23 should be down to bold.
And the hard copy has it correct, I think. The amended agenda that was on the
Right.
counter when we got here has them in the right sequence. But I think the published document was as Nolan described.
I was going to say, I think the a revised version was submitted. I don't know if that was submitted to your guys' private file system or not, but I believe the public version does have the revision.
Okay.
So
I'm confused. This is something we already talked about, we already passed, but it was not labeled correctly, or why?
essentially, from my understanding, it wasn't in the final textual form that's required for it to be passed.
Oh, okay. So it was just a form that was incorrect, the way it was written.
Yep.
Okay.
Substantively, this doesn't change what you guys thought you guys passed, my understanding. So, yeah, this is just a procedural thing.
So do we need to make a motion to do?
So is the CVB rezone actually 14 acres? Is that what you're saying, Nolan?
CBB is 1.4.
1.4, so it is correct on our
It's
hard.
correct on the hard copy.
All right,
Well, I would move that we pass ordinance 2024-23 CBB rezone.
I'll second it.
And that's actually upholding the planning commission's decision too, I believe.
Yeah.
So,
okay, all right. It's been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion on that? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
And I'll abstain from this one and the next one.
Okay, 6 ayes and 1 abstain. How do you say that, abstination? Abstention. Okay, thank you.
And I will make a motion that we approve ordinance 2024-24, Marshall Mon Trust A10 to RU5, which was also passed by the Planning and Zoning Commission.
I'll second that.
Been moved and seconded. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Are you going to abstain
Abstain
from that
again,
one
yeah.
too? Okay. All right, initial proposals for consideration for action. Who's going to talk about the fire code?
Talk about this, or should I?
If the council's okay with it, I should be able to speak on all 4 of these resolutions, or, excuse me, 2 ordinances and 2 resolutions, but I'll take them in turn. So the first ordinance 2025-04 is essentially amending the county fire code to come in compliance with the International Fire Code. So what we had in there previously was a reference to an old fire code, International Fire Code. And so we just amended the language in the ordinance so that it reflects the current International Fire Code. And that's really all there is to that one.
Okay. Do I ask for a motion, or do we just go through all of them first?
questions?
Do I have anybody have questions for Jairus about that?
I like the change, because then really we don't have to keep, it's automatically updated.
Yes.
So we don't have to keep relooking, you know. one
Good
little-
government efficiencies.
Exactly. So, therefore, I would, would you entertain a motion?
I would entertain a motion.
Then I would therefore ask that we suspend the rules and pass ordinance 2025-04, amending the Cache County Fire Code to comply, or to come into compliance with updates in the International Fire Code.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, that was unanimous. Okay, go ahead, go to B.
Right, excellent. So ordinance 2025-05, a similar change to county code, where we are amending the disclosure of conflicts of interest in county code to essentially just comply with state code. As it read before, it basically mirrored what was in state code. So you'll see a lot of red lines. That's just taking out the old language and just saying that we're simply going to comply with the state code in Title 17 as far as conflicts of interest are disclosed.
I think it simplifies it. I like it, just like the previous one. I'll move to suspend the rules and to approve ordinance 2025-05, amending the disclosure of conflicts of interest established under Cache County Code 2.62 to come into compliance with updates to state code.
I'd second.
It's been moved and seconded. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? It's unanimous. Okay. Keep going, Jairus. You're doing
All
good.
right, so the next one is a resolution 2025-01, and this is an amendment to the Cache County Personnel Policy and Procedure Manual. What we've been working on with several of those in the county is developing a policy so that the county can respond to whistleblowing complaints. We previously did not have that, and that's what the next resolution is about. So I'll kind of speak to both of these so that you can have context for this one. So through the Ordinance and Policy Review Committee, and many of those who have commented, we were able to develop a whistleblowing policy on how the county will respond to a whistleblowing complaint. That required some changes in the Personnel Policy and Procedure Manual because for those who are employees of the county, they need to also have some direction on how to respond to whistleblowing. And so the amendments to the Personnel Policy and Procedure Manual just make sure that the process that was created matches with what is in the Personnel Policy and Procedure Manual. And there are a number of changes from what it was previously, making it a clearer and more functional process. And so those are the amendments. I'm happy to answer any questions if there are any on that Personnel Policy and Procedure Manual.
Anybody have questions for Jairus?
I guess I'm a little bit confused because for resolution 2025-02, I'm not seeing it on here. I see 01, but I don't see anything on 02. Am I looking at it incorrectly? Anybody else?
The whistleblower starts with 09-D, the name of the document.
9E?
D.
D.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. All right, got it, thanks. So should it read ordinance number 2025 instead of 2024?
Yeah.
Yeah, the document here says
Yeah.
20.
I was going to say, the motion that you guys passed earlier regarding the changes in bunch of leadership, the new year, all that stuff, that should cover that.
Okay.
Automatically. Okay, anybody else have questions for Jairus about this policy? I would entertain a motion.
I want to say one thing. Jairus and Eric have worked very hard on this for a long time, and thank you for all that you've done on that.
I would echo to that with the effort that OMP put in and your effort in addition to that times 10. Thank you.
Okay, anybody want to make a motion about that?
I'll make the motion that we suspend the rules and amend the Cache County Personnel Policy and Procedure Manual under Resolution 2025-01.
I'll second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded.
No, let's let the second be.
I've been waiting for this for a long time. So I'll be happy to second it.
Okay.
On the next one too. So.
Yeah.
All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
I'll abstain on this one too.
Okay.
Yeah.
One abstention. Okay. And then D.
And finally, on Resolution 2025-2, I already gave a little bit of context. This is the full-on policy, how the county responds to a whistleblowing complaint. It starts from receiving a complaint, having a committee that will help address those complaints, having investigations that are performed in a certain manner, who performs those investigations, and then also the hearing process and how appeals are to be made if there are any. And so we made sure that we covered the whole process and that the proper individuals were identified to handle that process. And it does take into account a number of individuals so that there's a process that is looked over by many eyes, but also trying to limit that because we also understand that these complaints are not easy for employees to make, and trying to respect their privacy rights and the strength and courage that it takes to report any type of government misconduct. So if there are questions on that, happy to answer those again, but that's basically what this countywide policy will cover.
Did you draft this based on, did you draw from other sources or was this just something that you worked together to draft, or?
Yeah, so
use as a resource?
I worked very closely with Amy from Personal Management. So based off of her experience in running investigations, I conducted investigations up at the university, so I drew on a lot of experience that I had there, and then just the input that we had. This has been in the ordinance and policy meeting for over a year, and so we've been able to have input from the executive's office, from other elected officials, and department heads as well. So yes, a wealth of knowledge was able to come and help put this together.
Barbara, OMP was involved in this, like, are you guys?
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. Perfect. I'm glad. Okay. I'd entertain a motion for this resolution as well.
I would move to pass, so I guess suspend the rules, and pass resolution 2025-02, adding a policy on whistleblowing to section 2 of the county-wide policy.
I'll second it.
It's been moved and seconded. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Anybody opposed? Did you vote aye on that?
Abstain, yeah.
Okay.
But I make that motion with deep thanks.
Yes, thank you,
I think
Jairus.
it hasn't been easy, but we have needed that in the county.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jairus.
Thanks, Jairus.
Thank you.
Okay, I think that's the end of regular business. Other business, for council member 2025 goals, I know some of us wanted to maybe think on those for a little while, but if there are people that are ready to report on that, we'll go ahead and start.
I'd be happy to move to next time.
Okay, can we
Myself.
just do that and move that for next time? Okay?
Yep.
All right, let's look at the committee assignments and boards that everyone has. Is there anyone who is, first of all, interested in changing what they've been doing, or they want to do something different?
Some of these are not accurate.
Yeah, I was gonna go there too in the conversation that these aren't necessarily current as listed.
Is there
And
any
one
way to
example,
Can we put them up there?
And be real time? I know that's putting a lot on you while we're all watching you. So that's all, that's.
Yeah, no, I can put it up. This is just what was available publicly and what was on the website as is. So that being said, I didn't exactly have access to a full current roster, so I apologize.
the main detail or distinction that I think we need to update on the liaison assignments. For the last year, Carl Ward was actually serving as the liaison with the auditor. So he and I were kind of both working with Bryson. So that, for conversation going forward, that, the auditor liaison assignment would be one that was Carl's and would need to be, that one will for sure need to be reassigned as well.
Okay.
I want to stay definitely with human resources, and I'd be more than happy to stay with the sheriff.
I can tell you which ones I'd be interested in. I don't know whose toes I'd be stepping on, but
No, go ahead.
for that part, I wrote down trails, open spaces, airport, economic opportunity, and visitors bureau in that order.
Okay. Look at can you see the list at the top there? Let's talk about our liaison first. On mine, it also needs to put the senior center. I've been a liaison with the senior center and also with the executive's office. So we'll keep those. Carl was the assessor and the finance. He was the liaison with those department heads.
And auditor.
And auditor.
Yeah.
How do you feel about those, Keegan? Is that something,
Yeah, I don't
that's
know.
kind of, that's a lot of the financial stuff.
Matt Funk's in the room, so I don't know. I mean, I guess can I answer with him here?
Oh,
No, I'm just
absolutely.
kidding. Yeah, I'd be happy to work with him on it, with the auditor.
Are assigned.
I don't know what that
I don't know what that means on the bottom.
What?
The unassigned are actually assigned.
Yeah.
As of the posting of the current information online, that's just what it said, so I apologize again.
No, it's fine. They're all assigned, maybe that was just.
Yeah, maybe, are we splitting, is the assessor and the finance, like, if we give assessor, finance, and auditor all in one place, that seems like a lot of financial.
That's a lot.
Yeah, I would be willing to take one of those and give up the Visitors Bureau that Keegan has said he
Well,
is.
and the finance might go well with somebody who's on the appropriations committee.
Yeah,
Because that might be a natural, they already are going to be working closely with them.
yeah. That's me, you, and Nolan. Nolan, what else, what do you have? Development Services, Public Works, that and Planning and Zoning, you've got a bit.
He's
He's
got a
lot.
big.
That's a heavy plate.
Especially
Yeah.
because they have so
That's a
many.
big,
I would be I would take finance,
Okay, why don't you take finance and
because the Children's Justice Center and Victim Services are housed
together,
together. I mean, they're separate, but they're.
okay. And then we'll give Keegan the assessor and the auditor. Okay, knowing that we're all there to help with those. Okay, so does that take care of all of the department liaisons regardless of boards? That's our liaison list.
How about, now, did you say something about the Visitors Bureau?
Yes, we were gonna give that to, we were gonna give that one to Keegan, and I was gonna take one of either the assessor or the auditor. Why don't you let me take the auditor, and you do the assessor and the
And Visitors Bureau.
Visitors Bureau?
And so that has all of the department heads then? Is IT on there?
I don't
Okay.
see it.
IT is with me in,
Mark?
Information.
Yeah.
Oh, I see that now.
You said assessor, so I'd be, that's Brett.
Brett,
Okay.
yeah.
And then Visitors Bureau. Got it.
And then if you want to go up to mine, you can add
Finance.
finance.
And go ahead and put auditor on me, but take out Visitors Bureau.
Yeah.
yeah, you cut auditor out of me in one term.
Catherine, you've been coming to the Human Resources, the meetings, haven't you?
Just to the, just to the
Compensation.
compensation committee, which is a separate one.
Okay, good deal.
Which ones?
Auditor,
Visitors Bureau.
take off Visitors Bureau and put auditor for me.
And with Keegan,
That looks right.
The assessor and the Visitors
is there
Bureau.
any other changes that need to be made for the
So
department?
they all accounted for?
Yeah, you need to take auditor off my,
Yeah.
Is there any, but leave clerk, right?
right.
Are there any departments that we have not covered there that we need to make sure we have a liaison?
We should have a liaison with the executive.
Yes. I had been doing that. I think,
I can do that.
I was gonna say, it makes sense for the, in my train of thought is it would make sense for the council chair to be the liaison.
Council chair.
But that's just my suggestion.
I have been kind of doing that
So do you
already.
want to take one of yours off and give that to you, Sandy?
Sure, I can,
Because then we'd have every department head and elected official.
I'll take treasurer if you'd like, or auditor, either one.
okay, why don't you take treasurer and I'll take the executive? If it'll have me. Okay, does that look,
Oh, solid waste.
Do you want that
Do we accept dead animals?
at the landfill?
We do.
They're charged? Yeah.
So that means people are just gonna dump them in fields?
Oh, yeah, that's exactly what.
Okay.
Yeah, Logan put a fee on it,
I need to talk to you about that then.
but
So-
they can bury it on their own place.
So on,
There's huge
over to
issues.
the left,
There's huge issues with solid waste.
Andrew, we should probably change those names on the left to,
the position?
yeah, the position.
You can do that when people aren't watching you.
No, I want it now.
I know, but I'm like, we're all just like.
Come on, Andrew.
Criticizing everything.
So who's taking solid waste?
No, David Erickson is staying with the solid waste. I was just asking a question about.
Okay. Any other changes or additions?
I don't think so, as long as we have everyone covered.
So is like fairgrounds, is that a department that needs? or
That's
is
one of
that
the committees.
more of a
It's a
And the
committee,
others
yeah.
slash
So-
board.
Yeah, there's a lot of,
We'll talk
Okay,
about
so
that
that's-
down the road.
okay.
Yeah.
so let's talk about individual boards that we all serve on.
The committees.
I don't know if you want to jump around or just go down.
Let's start at the
No?
top and go down.
Okay. Is brag too much?
Because I won't be
For
the
you?
chairman anymore. So
you
I'd
can
like,
have-
I'd like
you-
to stick with
You can
brag.
handle that one, okay.
Yeah.
We need one more.
But we
though,
need
'cause
one more.
Carla was on it.
Yeah,
On brag?
uh-huh,
Carl's not there, because I'd be happy to do that one.
okay. You put Dave on the brag governing board. Okay, and then Barbara's still the human services. You've been doing all that for a while, good. The mental health board, are you still on that, David?
No.
Okay.
Nolan is.
Nolan's on that one.
No.
Nope.
According to legal, nobody from the council.
It's going to be redone. Hasn't been yet, but yeah, it'll be redone in different membership.
Okay, so we can just leave everyone off that for now, off the mental health board, Andrew. The audit committee, there is no audit committee anymore. It's an appropriations committee. Oh, yes, no, that's not true. There is an audit, there is an audit committee. Yeah, Carl was the chairman of the audit committee. Okay. So that one was me, Barbara, and Carl. So, Keegan, are you okay taking that committee, the audit committee?
Sure.
Okay,
Can I ask to be removed from that?
yes. Barbara would like to be removed. Is there someone who would like to serve on the audit committee in Barbara's place?
Before I answer that, there is also the budget committee,
You're right.
and is that one replaced by the appropriations?
Yeah, that's the appropriations committee.
If that's the case, then I don't have an assignment there, neither does Barbara Nolan.
Okay, so would you take the audit committee,
Yes,
Mark?
I would do the audit committee.
Okay, are you keeping track of all these, Andrew? I better
I think
start.
easier on paper now.
Yeah, so the audit committee,
Audit
we're gonna
committee's Mark-
add,
Mark, Sandy, and Keegan?
pardon?
Mark, Sandy, and Keegan, is that
Yes.
audit? Okay.
Cache County
Boundary Commission?
Anyone want to do that one?
I've never heard of it.
Wait till you show up and do it.
I
Is that
think,
one-
I think
I
you're in a
bet it's
good place.
heated.
I think you're doing a great job there.
Well, we have had a few over the past 10 years.
Is it when there's a debate?
When a city, yeah, when there's a debate and a
Between
discrepancy between, when a city wants to annexations.
Islands and peninsulas.
Yes, it is, it is.
I think your institutional knowledge is
Yeah,
probably
yeah.
pretty
We've
valuable
been
in that
pretty,
committee.
the last one we had, as a matter of fact, we had a different assessor, so it's been a while. But, I'm happy to stay there if it does come up,
Okay,
so
You get to travel to the outskirts of the county.
I travel there anyway.
Lives on the outskirts of the county.
Chair, can I make a quick just comment?
absolutely.
As far as the audit committee, we've had discussion, me and Matt, and he'll be leading up that committee, providing not just the external audit, but any internal audit function that we perform. We wonder if his liaison ought to serve on that committee.
Well, that would be me, so, and I'm on that committee, so that'll work out. That'll be perfect. Okay, so the budget committee is now the appropriations committee, and on that one, we have Mark.
Well,
No,
that's
that
me.
was incorrect. It was me, Nolan, and Catherine
Yeah.
on appropriations. Is that still okay with you guys?
Yeah.
Because it never was Mark. Okay. Cache County Community Foundation Board.
What is that?
I don't know, Carl was on that, but I don't know what that is. Do we know?
Yes, and we're in the process of updating the the bylaws and the formation of that. But we would like, well, it does say automatically that our auditor is on it, so
Okay.
that's one thing that we updated, but we would like a council member to serve on that.
What does,
It was Carl previously.
What's it do?
It's for like, it's a
What does it do?
501c3.
It's a 501c3 that we formed.
Any
so
money we
can
take in.
accept donations. So if there's ever a donation that comes in and somebody wants a tax deductible receipt, they can do that through the foundation. And usually it's the senior center most often that donations come through for that. But because it's a separate corporate body, we have to have a governing board for it. So it doesn't meet very often, like once or twice a year. We are going to meet a couple times because we need to update some things. But it was Carl before.
Is there a council member that would like to take that on?
Keegan wants it. Look at him. He wants it.
Keegan wants to wait to see how many others.
Okay, so we need somebody on the community foundation
I
board.
nominate Keegan.
I'm not making it.
Second.
They don't
That's how
meet very
this
often, they don't
works,
meet
huh?
very often,
Okay,
Keegan.
yeah, let's
We
do
didn't
it.
even know what it was.
You've been thrown under the bus, but the bus isn't moving yet.
Yeah. Voluntold.
Yeah. Okay, Cache County Council of Governments, the COG. Do we not, I think we should have a council member that is assigned to attend that. Not to be a voting member, but to be there as a liaison for all of us. I don't know how you guys feel about that, if anyone feels like they would want to take that on.
It is requested, I know, by COG itself.
Yeah, I just think it would be really good for us to have that communication.
I would be willing to do that.
Barbara, thank you.
How often do they meet?
It varies, but
Quarterly?
on average, it's probably closer to monthly. It's not monthly, but it's close to monthly.
Okay, perfect. Okay, economic development, that's Mark and I. Is that one you said you would be interested in,
Yeah.
Keegan? Okay, I'd be okay to switch you on that one, because I've taken on some other things, if you want to be economic development.
Right.
Okay, employee compensation committee, we've got Barbara and Catherine. You guys good with that still?
Yeah.
Thank you, you've been doing a good job on that. The fair and rodeo is Dave, and it's been me,
Yeah, I was gonna say there are.
me and Mark, right?
Mark.
Well, I'm down there because we have them separate as the Fairgrounds Advisory Board.
Oh, the Fairgrounds Advisory
Board,
Board.
and then there's the
But-
executive board.
But I'd be happy to do both because they are it's almost the same thing.
Well, the Cache County Fair and Rodeo Executive Board is different than the
Right,
Fairgrounds
right,
Advisory Board.
but definitely. So anyway, that.
You do both of
I
those,
would-
right?
I do, yeah.
Yeah.
Do we need another council member on the executive board, or is one sufficient? The three of us are on the advisory board. What do you,
It probably says in their bylaws what they.
Yeah, that's what
and
we'd have to
probably like
Okay.
a
on the
council
executive
member or
board.
something.
a council member?
It has bylaws, but we're happy to take another council member if somebody wants to help.
Is there anyone that would like to do that, or should we just leave that to former chair?
I'm happy to keep with it.
Okay, let us know, like if there's more, or if you feel like you need someone else when you can't be there. Okay, the fire district board, we've got Catherine and Dave. I know that is in flux. We're just gonna leave that to you guys until,
Are you sure?
Is there
Somebody
sure,
else
does
want it?
anyone else?
nope, you're doing a great job.
Mark, you're in the north end.
Right, and,
I think Rob would rather if Nolan were on it.
yeah,
Nolan, do you wanna do that?
we can get to the end of the list,
bus
Dave, and
is
if you're burning
full.
on it.
The bus is full.
And he's been run over
I'll stay,
twice.
I'll happy to stay on it
It is.
if Rod doesn't retire.
I'll stay on if Rod,
There you
if
go.
Rod stays on
There you
until the
go.
very end.
If you retire, we're all gone.
We're out there.
Okay, all right. Thank you guys for doing that. I know that's a big deal. Library is Mark, correct?
Yep, I'd like to stick with that one.
Planning and zoning is Nolan. Good job. Vegetation management, Dave Erickson.
I've been doing that for several years, 10 years now.
Okay.
Been happy to do it.
The CMPO, like, isn't that associated with, we don't have any council members on that. Is that, tell me about that one, David.
The membership is set by state law, but it's another one where we're happy to have a liaison if somebody wants to come and participate with that.
How often do they meet?
It's almost every time we have a COG meeting, we usually have a CMPO
CMPO. They
meeting
kind of do them
before.
together, don't they?
Usually.
Okay, why don't
Might as well
we?
put me on it if where I'm gonna be
Yeah,
on call.
that would make sense.
Perfect. Thank you, Barbara. Yeah. The Chamber of Commerce, that's not really a council.
Outside, they determine that.
Yeah, okay. The Savita, that's not really.
Outside, it's a
Yeah,
committee of the chamber.
outside of us. Visitors Bureau Advisory Board, we're gonna give that to Keegan. Hardware Ranch Advisory
I've
Board.
never met. I don't know. Does that even exist anymore?
It does.
Oh, did they invite me or they just haven't met in 2 years?
They haven't had one, I know, for a long time.
Oh,
I know that. It's just very inactive at this time, I guess, so.
okay. Well, if they ever need advice, they know where to go.
Okay, the Bear River Local Homeless Council, I would be so happy if someone else would take that on with all the other things I have going. But it would be in a leadership role. It would not just be, it would be as the vice chairman of that committee. And Carl is not even on there anymore. Is there anyone who might be interested in that one? Takes a lot of time.
It is, it takes, I've been on it before, and it takes a lot of time.
I would be so happy to find someone else to do that. I was not adequately informed when I took that on.
Thank you for serving. You've done a fantastic job, by the way.
It has been a huge job, and it's going to get bigger.
Yeah, and state law requires that the leadership of that be an elected official. There are a number of people who serve on it, but the leadership have to be.
Has to be elected official. It doesn't have to be a council member. It just needs to be an elected official from one of the 3 counties, so.
Where it's the Bear River Local Homeless
Homeless Council.
Council, is that also including Box Elder
Yes.
and Rich?
Yes.
Are they participating?
Yes, they are.
In leadership?
No, not yet, but Lee Perry is set to take on
Okay.
some leadership. And Amy Anderson has been serving as our chair for 2 years now, and she is fabulous. I don't know if I can take over her role, but is there someone that would be willing to even just go to the meeting? They're always Zoom meetings. Carl always did.
Because as Mr. Erickson suggested, you've sold it so well, but.
Yeah.
When you say that's a lot of commitment, if you're not in the chair or in the leadership position, how much time is it?
It's once a month. It's the first Tuesday of the month from 3 to, or the first Tuesday of the month from 3 to 4, and it's always on Zoom. Twice a year, there'll be the option of meeting in person, and all you'd have to do is basically listen and give advice if you'd like.
When I was on it, they expected you to listen to the state hearings too.
No,
So-
I have balance of state meetings. I
Yeah.
have, there's.
There was so much involvement in it. Yes, we're making it sound really fun.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're
but-
really selling it.
But that's why I got off of it. I just didn't have the time to do it.
Yeah, and I unfortunately am in a position where I can't just give it up, I
We
guess.
can be in attendance.
Yes.
And not have to take on the role that you're,
I can cover it. Well, I don't think we need 2 of us, so I don't think there's a requirement that there be a council member, so.
No, it just is good for them to be aware of, because there's things that are gonna come up, like bonds, not bonds, but, as we look for needs for permanent supportive housing, we're asking for grants, there's
they're
a,
constantly talking in each legislative session of requirements that they have coming to each.
yeah.
Catherine, you'd be really good at that. You would.
I mean, I can attend the meetings, I can, by Zoom. I can't go down there
No.
Right.
to the meetings in person, so I could be in attendance, but I can't take
Okay,
the role of
will
the
you,
leader.
will you
Yeah,
just, and I'll put you on the,
homeless.
put on the list for, you'll be sent a Zoom link, and it's once a month.
Okay.
And it basically, the main meeting that is once a month, all of the different agencies that offer homeless services report together and talk about things that they can do collectively so that we are, as a community, all of the resources are put in the best light. And So so it's not, the actual homeless council has no legislative authority. It's basically a body that collects information and helps.
To bring back to
Advisory.
us.
Yes, so if you would attend those, that would be great.
Do we need to fill both spots that we've historically had? Is there
Well, I'm there.
advantage or disadvantage?
No, I think if one person is there, that's plenty. I think we're good.
I'll do that.
Okay, so where are we at? Information technology, Mark is already there,
I'll stick with that.
okay. Logan Cash Airport, okay, that was
Yeah.
Carl. Keegan, did you?
Keegan.
Yeah, I'm
Keegan,
interested in that.
okay. Perfect. Roads Advisory Board, that's,
No,
stay
these
on
are,
that.
this one and the next one, they kind of somewhat combine. But I know Nolan and I and Catherine are on that.
on the Roads Advisory Board,
Mhm.
okay. Yeah, Nolan's not listed there, is he? Oh,
No,
yeah,
And I
no,
am not either,
okay.
but I know we have been, we've been
Yeah.
attending.
Yeah, can you fix that, Andrew, that Nolan and,
The official member and the other two just attended, which anybody's welcome to attend. It's not.
no, because I came once and they asked me to
Well,
leave.
Because we formed a quorum.
Anyone,
I know.
yeah. I was gonna finish my sentence and say, anyone's welcome to come as long as you don't have too many of you.
I know. I showed up once and they politely asked me to leave because there was already 3 people there. Okay. All right, so you guys do that. What about the road special service? What's that, David?
That's, we receive some funding from the state and we just have to meet every year and accept it.
Okay,
And Wes and I think our auditor and treasurer and I do that.
okay. North Park Interlocal Cooperative Governing Board. I've never heard of that.
I'm good with that. That's the ice arena.
You keep doing that one. Okay, perfect. Ordinance OMP, you guys are doing a great job.
Carl's been on there, but I would love to get on there.
Okay, so we've got Mark. I think I've got you on there.
Show you on there?
Yeah, it shows you.
I know, but
He was
it's,
at one time, long time ago.
yeah, I was, and then Carl took it.
Okay.
And when I think when I became chair a couple of years ago.
Okay.
And so I'd be happy to get back on there.
Yeah, it's
Mark,
listed as.
David, and Barbara.
Yep, thank you, that's a big job. The Public Relations Committee, what is that? I'm on that.
That
We haven't met?
functioned in.
Just say I haven't
I've been here.
been invited to any meetings under that title, so.
Okay, we'll just leave that as it is. You can,
Too much of a liability.
Keegan, you take that one.
Keegan will put your name on that because Carl was in there, but I don't know what it means, so.
That one you can do with a full-time job, if they don't need.
Okay, the RAPS Committee, David and Barbara, and
I
that
would-
is
That's,
huge.
that's,
love to
this
stay
is
there.
outdated, because I'm on the RAPS committee.
Yeah,
I need to tap
it's
my
Catherine
name
and Barbara
off
are
there.
switched.
Yeah, I'm on RAPS.
Yeah,
Okay, so Catherine and Dave?
yeah,
Yeah.
Okay, you got that,
yeah.
Andrew? Okay, the Waste Consortium, David Nolan, you're doing that with the executive?
Well, it's now just the executive, isn't it?
Yeah,
They-
that top one can be removed,
The
right?
top one is no longer, I thought.
Oh, because they got it all fixed?
No.
No, but there is an executive committee, yes.
It's far from fixed.
But there is an executive committee. Okay, and that has Nolan on it. Do we need another council member on that? Nolan, do you feel like you're good with that?
That's their bylaws, isn't it? That you are, there's one representative from the county.
Only one of us is
Okay.
on the executive committee.
Yeah.
Perfect, okay. Tourism Tax Advisory Board, that's just the executive.
Trails.
Trails, Catherine, did you want to give that to Keegan?
Keegan, you said you were interested in that. That's a
Yeah.
Zoom call once a month.
Okay, yeah,
at noon.
if you're fine releasing
Yeah,
it, I'll
go
take
ahead.
it.
You're fine. Give that to Keegan.
Okay, the UAC Governing Board, Barbara, now that you're the USAC Vice Chair, Secretary,
We get another seat now.
okay.
I know I've served on there. Barbara, you've served on there. It's actually a very good,
It's an awesome position.
it's a good meeting to be to.
Yeah, it's a good thing to go to.
You do have to go down almost a day earlier
Yeah.
than everybody
before-
else.
Yeah. But I would advise any of you guys to do it because it's good, but it does take some time.
I'd be happy to do that unless there's somebody else who wants to. I
That'd be-
generally have time to do that.
That'd be great.
That'd be good.
Okay.
And if you can't, you can always have someone else go down for you.
Right.
Okay.
I called on David a couple times to go down on it for me.
The Criminal Justice Coordinating Council.
That's you now.
By law says it has to be the chairman of the council.
That is Sandy. You can have it.
Thanks, but you're still my wingman. Yes, you are.
What is that? They
The
meet,
Criminal Justice Coordinating Council.
they meet once a month, except for the last half of the year.
We did meet last year.
We got so blessed and busy with things that we did not.
It's a,
And there's a lot of, right now, there's really a big push on it. UAC has really, got some grants and everything that, and
we
putting
need-
together all the data on it, and recidivism is a big thing that they're talking about. It's quite a,
You need to try to find another elected official to take the homelessness.
I don't know how to do that, and I need to look around and see.
Well, somebody that gets paid for a full-time job.
Yeah, that's because that's about what it is. I'll look at that and see. I would really.
I mean, I can do it.
Bryson, would you be willing to take? It's a big job, but it's. I will. That's amazing.
That's amazing.
Bryson, you are.
So much.
Yes.
MVP of the meeting.
Yeah, I'm going to send you some cookies or something, because that's awesome. I will talk to you about that, and thank you, that's, and it'll take you a while to get your feet wet and figure it out, so I'll stick with you till you're ready. Okay.
keep your ear to there's legislative actions right now. It's just, it is active as can be on that.
Mm-hmm.
Same with elections, so we're
Yeah.
gonna be all over that anyway, so.
Okay. All right. I think there's something else that well, I guess we can talk about it next week when we talk about our goals, because I have some ideas about some things, especially legislatively, things that we need to be on top of and like paying attention to with Andrew.
Can I ask a question about another board?
Absolutely.
Did we discuss COSAC?
We did not. It wasn't even on here.
COSAC isn't on there.
Yeah, this was outdated before we had
COSAC is
COSAC.
held about once a month on Monday at 3:30.
That's you, right?
And that's me, if anybody wants to. Right now, we haven't had as many, and this kind of bleeds into some of our council business, but right now, we haven't had as many applications. So what they're doing is trying to be a little proactive, and they've identified areas that they would like people to apply. So they're drafting a letter to send out, to say, hey, this money is available, and if you're willing and you would like to apply for it, we'd like this is kind of what it means to have an easement on your property, kind of a thing. So that's what they're doing currently. Anybody interested in doing that?
I'm interested in that, the open spaces, right?
Yeah, that's the open space, getting that money that the bond. Yeah?
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, I helped out with the surveys before I was ever doing this, and I've always been interested in
Cool.
what
So,
they do.
yeah, Keegan, if you want to put Keegan's name down for COSAC,
Is he going to be replacing you?
replacing me, yeah.
And Andrew, if you wouldn't mind updating this with names and committees and everything in the next day or two, because it gets confusing. Thank you so much. Awesome.
Andrew, if you want to sit with me, I wrote everything down too, so.
Okay.
Can you tally up whoever has the most, and then we have to buy that person?
That person gets a Coke, or they get a nice snack.
Yeah,
Nice meal.
a good
A bigger cut.
A bigger cup for the snack.
I think that Coke should go to who gave the sales job to Bryson.
Yeah,
Jeez.
Let's see if
This
they-
was a full-time job, and my mom was full-time.
Somebody actually gets paid.
Yeah. Okay, thank you all for your willingness to serve, and I hope, if anybody feels really strongly about something that they felt like they didn't get to say tonight, please contact me or whatever. I hope you've all felt like you had a say in what you wanted to do.
If we tally it up and there's a great imbalance, seriously, like, I'd be open to revisiting it too, because I don't want someone.
Yeah,
to
let's
have-
get it done and let's
Yeah.
look and see where we're at. Okay,
Yeah.
You look like a man of solid waste.
are we,
Next
I've heard
item
that
is the legislature.
oh yeah, the legislature.
Different words, but.
I have 6 for you.
The legislature starts on January 21st. UAC County Day on the Hill is February 5th. Is everyone, we're all registered for that, correct? Andrew? Okay. Is there anybody who cannot go?
To UAC? I
The
can be,
day on the Hill, on the
Oh,
5th of
yeah, I can
January,
be
or
there.
5th of February?
yep.
All right. And council member reports, does anyone, Mark, do you want to, I know we've been away and apart for a long time here.
Yeah, so the two things, well, unless the chairman of OMP wants me to talk about it, I'd save that for you, Barbara.
No, go for it.
OMP met Friday, and you saw a lot of what we approved or recommended out of that meeting in the items that Jairus presented today, and then there are a couple ongoing, one of those being the purchasing policy and the debt servicing policy. So there will be some more pretty important things coming.
Yes, I'm
out of
glad you're
OMP coming soon.
doing that.
Yeah, as was mentioned, Councilmember Erickson is filling the spot that Councilmember Ward was in there, so that has been filled. The library board met last week also, and there was, the conflict of interest forms were all filled out, et cetera, so they're current and following that policy. Out of that discussion, there was a significant increase in library cards or new users over the last year. So there's been growth year after year. I didn't get a percentage, but I'll get that. I thought I would mention that I would like to invite the director of the library to come to this meeting, to this body sometime in the first quarter. So maybe I'll get with the chair and find a good day to do that. But I think it'd be important for us to have some of that information that was shared on the numbers and the activity to then help frame where the library board's discussion is going in the future. Right now, the main thing that we're talking about is updating the interlocal agreement between the county and Providence City and River Heights. And it's been several years since that has been revisited, and there are things that we need to clear up, including ways that things that didn't exist as far as internet service, et cetera, back when the last time that was reviewed, that I think we could actually find some significant savings in operating costs if we get the updates done soon. So, yeah, more to come on that. And we will, as the, let's see, the CEO board, there will have to be some new appointments made, as there are some terms expiring and some members have changed responsibilities in their day-to-day, and so there will be some changes coming that we'll have to have appointed and recommended by this body, so I'll bring those forward in the near future.
Thank you.
That's it for me.
Nolan?
I have nothing.
Okay. Barbara?
Yes, thank you to everyone for your support to me as vice chair. I've appreciated that, but I will be honest and say, whew, glad that's done. So, yeah, also, I'm really starting to really get really busy with USAC, and I appreciate being on that. Andrew and Dave and I were on calls. I know some of you were on the first call. It's going to be a busy, busy year, and I just have some excitement about the whole thing, so thank you for that. Lucas Martin is here, and I talked to him last couple months ago about doing a presentation on the Bragg, and so I would like to set some time aside for him to come in, and he already agreed to that, right, Lucas? Yeah, you did. No, and so, yeah, I would appreciate that. And one more thing is, Catherine, you get to, we delayed the Christmas party.
Oh!
So now, so if we want a Christmas party, you can plan it.
Oh, yay! Fun. Okay.
Good job.
My turn?
Yes, your
Oh,
turn.
okay.
Go ahead, sorry.
I think just expanding a little bit on what I was talking about with COSAC, the gateway areas, and they started first with Highway 8991. So they identified the large landholders coming down out of the canyon at Highway 8991, and they want to draft a letter, which will come from the council. So I told them if they want to draft a letter, that's fine. Bring it to us and come present it to us as COSAC to see if that's a letter that we would like to send out to the property owners to remind them of this bond, the bond verbiage, if they would like to apply for that. So we'll be expecting that from COSAC here and probably in the next month or two.
Can I ask a question on that?
Yeah.
So that's out in my neighborhood, and so normally when we've done the open space, the landowner has got to petition or participate in that. So now we're gonna go request somebody if they
It's-
wanna do that.
It's
So
reminding them that these funds are available and telling them what an easement is. It's not like, hey, you should be doing this. It's the Cache County taxpayers voted for this to be used for this. If you have any questions and think you would like to participate, contact this office, type of a thing.
Okay, so it's like an awareness campaign?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I don't think that there's no, just more of an awareness of this is available. Again, we identified the gateways, the committee, and I think many of those that were proponents of getting the bond passed really wanted that corridor to be preserved as you're coming into the valley. And so that's how they kind of identified that area and those large tracts of land before they get developed.
I just wonder about a council signing off on that.
It'll come to us and we can say yay or nay. I mean, the funds are available, we have to use them.
Understood.
Can I ask one thing? A couple months ago, we were talking about when we closed the roads. Has anything been done on that? Because we were going to take some action and send some kind of notice out now.
The mountain roads?
Yes.
I don't know.
Matt's
Do you
gone.
know, Taylor?
Matt left, yeah.
We've been working on it with Public Works, so
Okay.
I don't have an update for you.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thanks, Barbara. I know I got a couple phone calls from people who were surprised and not happy about road closings that were different this year. So I think a public statement or some kind of awareness would go over really well on that. Okay, Mr. Erickson.
I guess some of the major phone calls that I have been getting as of lately is our waste management not possibly fulfilling their contract with especially our bigger manufacturing plants. They haven't, there's been several of them that just aren't getting the service, and they've been reaching out to me. 8 of them, as a matter of fact, have reached out to me. That's quite a few that are all expressing the same problems, that it doesn't marry their policies nationwide, and they are not providing the service of timely pickups when they're supposed to, so that they can keep functioning from a manufacturing point of view. That's got to be done. It's got to be taken. All these things, it's just not happening. And so we need to, I think that'll be kind of an issue in the, coming up.
How often does the executive committee from the Waste Consortium meet?
I don't know, Nolan, when's the last time they met? They haven't met for a long time, have they?
No, they met here a little while ago, didn't they?
About a month ago was
About a
the
month
last
ago.
one, but before that, it'd been several months.
Is there a plan for a next meeting, or is it just as kind of ad hoc?
Needed is usually.
Kind of sounds like maybe there needs to be,
Well, a lot of these companies were actually just saying, well, if you're not gonna do it, they were just going out to other companies and starting to, go ahead and have them fulfill their needs. And then they've all been issued letters to cease, desist. But they're not getting the service. So something's not happening right to fulfill what's in the contract. So, or it's
Sounds like
not detailed enough, or something is just not right there for them to keep, opening and manufacturing and doing that business like they need to, and getting that service like they should.
Does it have anything to do with the holiday schedule? Because it doesn't?
No.
Because it's been weird
No.
residentially because of holidays.
Residentially, yeah, I've had I've had a few complaints on that one too.
But it's nothing to do with that.
And so, but with that set aside, so I'm not real happy with that, but everything else, I just want to thank you all personally, in the past couple of years. It hasn't been easy, but everything we've done, I think, has been very necessary, and we've really dug in, and I appreciate all that we've been able to get accomplished and done. We're not here just to be pretty. Some of you do that really good, but not all of us. I'm not here to be pretty. But anyway, we appreciate every one of you and pitching in, helping out on that, so.
Can I add one more thing, Dave? You were talking about, I've had a couple people come to me wanting to know how to handle recycling. Apparently, they do not have any bins or anything that they can find to put their cardboard in. And these are people out in Minden area, and I can't remember the other area, but that's something that needs to be looked at also. 'Cause that's not being taken care of either.
That falls back to, from a contract, we talked about recycling bins and everything else, and it is a pain in the, you know what? To put a recycling bin out there and monitor that only recycling gets in there.
I remember that conversation, yes.
And so, that is does Salt Lake County even recycle? No. So there's very few places that recycle, and we're lucky we have one, but it's a tenuous thing as to whether that's going to continue in that area, and having a recycle bin where citizens can go. The individual communities, if I remember right, Mr. Zook, were very not wanting to have that because then they're tasked with policing that, right?
Yeah, that's, you're referring to the green waste recycling.
And the recycling too, because they're just like, it's crazy.
The cardboard.
Yeah, yeah, there are some cardboard. Historically, many of the communities had green waste roll-offs, and it was problematic to police those. Some of them had a variety of other recycling containers, including cardboard, glass, metal even, and it is very difficult to monitor those. Some cities installed gates and cameras and even had people checking IDs, people coming into dumps, so it's hard to manage those.
Hiram used to have some awesome ones, but they just got impacted so bad, and then there were things in there that weren't recycling, and so then it just took away the profitability of having to go through all that stuff to say this isn't recyclable again, so.
It is a little concerning not having them because that could lead to people just dumping, and oftentimes that'll be in the unincorporated areas.
That's it.
All right, thank you. Keegan?
Yeah, I just want to say thanks to people who have been willing to meet with me and help me get started. The people here, as well as like Andrew's predecessor, Micah, was willing to meet with me, former employees. And I just really appreciate when they have nothing to gain from doing that other than helping me and helping the residents of the county. So thanks to them for that. And thanks for the welcome from everybody. Appreciate it.
Glad to have you here. All right, I just got back from vacation, so I haven't been working hard this last week or so, but I want to thank Dave and Barbara for their years of service in our leadership and for the guidance, and I will still depend on that. But I think they've done a great job for us, and so I want to publicly thank them. And I think we have another meeting to go to now, right?
Sweet.
So how do I do that? Do I ask for a motion?
Entertain a motion.
I'll entertain a motion.
I move that we go to executive session, Utah Code 52-4-205-1D, discussion of the purchase, exchange, or lease of real property, including any form of a water right or water shares, or to discuss a proposed development agreement, project proposal, or financing proposal related to the development of land owned by the state.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded that we move to executive session. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
It was so long, I think we all kind of forgot.
Good job, Barbara. Okay. All right, are we going upstairs?